Hey, what's going on, gang? Nate on the Stone here. Welcome back to my channel and to the 80th episode of The Rolling Stone. We are loaded for bear. There are several stories that I want to get to. First, before we go on, mea culpa, because you're probably wondering, well, where's the regular On the Stone video? It is coming, gang. It is coming. My apologies. What can I say? Work, Thanksgiving, and just couple of other things in life have gotten in the way, making it so that this video is going to be a little late. But I wanted this video also to be good because we are, I'm going to be taking just a little break from what we talked about the last couple of times, revolution, of course, and talking about something important. We actually, by the by, we passed a very huge milestone just about a week ago now, 400th anniversary. And that's what we're going to be talking about on the next On the Stone video that is getting made. I promise, I promise, I promise. So if anyone actually wants to take a stab at what we are going to be talking about, let me know in the comments below. And I'll let you know if you are correct or not. But of course, we're not just going to be talking about that 400th anniversary. We are going to be tying it with what's going on in the here and now. So that is coming down the pipe. My apologies once again for it being late. On to this edition of the Rolling Stone. The first thing that we have to talk about is Sidney Powell and the Kraken being unleashed. And in case you're wondering who and she released what now? Huh? Here we go. Sidney Powell is a lawyer. And last week, everyone assumed that she was actually representing the Trump administration in its legal fight contesting the 2020 election. Last week, there was a big press conference with Rudy Giuliani, Janet Ellis, who is President Trump's personal attorney, and Sidney Powell was right there alongside of them. It was a press conference that took several hours, and Sidney Powell had a prominent role in that press conference. Now, lo and behold, just about, let's see, that press conference was a week before Thanksgiving, so last Thursday. Last Saturday, a week ago today, the administration actually threw a curveball at everyone by saying that Janet Ellis is not representing the Trump administration or President Trump in his personal capacity, which was kind of an about turn because, as Mark Stein put it, if you're not representing either the administration or the president, how exactly did you sneak yourself into a press conference where the administration's lawyers were making their big case that election fraud had happened? You can't. Now, the official explanation for why Sidney Powell was given the boot is that she was just putting putting out conspiracy theories that were too radical, even for the administration. They were just too radical. This is from Business Insider. Quote, one unnamed Trump advisor told the New York Times reporter Maggie Haberman that Powell's ideas were too conspiratorial even for him. Powell charges that voting machines used in Georgia and Michigan switched votes to Joe Biden and had been designed to ensure that Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez, who died in 2013, won his elections. These allegations have been debunked, according to CNN. Now, truth be known, okay, the damnable thing about where we are right now, gang, is that we cannot be sure who is telling the truth. If you want to get to the bedrock, one of the bedrock things that is wrong right now with our country is that we do not know who is telling the truth. The very fact that another unnamed Trump advisor told the New York Times immediately raises red flags in my mind. The very fact that these allegations have been debunked according to CNN, that raises red flags. That causes my spider sense to immediately go off, because if the last 4 years have proven anything, it's that the New York Times, CNN, and the rest of the media conglomerate cannot be trusted, because they don't want to earn our trust. They simply want to earn... They don't even want to earn our adulation. They want to earn our fear. They want to control reality. And they don't care if we know it or not. As long as we bend a knee, then they are happy. Now, as we talked about immediately after the election, the Friday after the election, there are numerous elements to the 2020 election that would cause fair-minded and objective people to raise an eyebrow. For example, the fact that Joe Biden underperformed Hillary Clinton, except in Atlanta, Milwaukee, Detroit, and Philadelphia. The four metropolises that stopped counting ballots on election night around midnight and then all mysteriously around 3:34 a.m. received huge voter dumps, which all went 100% toward Joe Biden. That is a curious incident, would you not say? There's the fact that Joe Biden lost the bellwether states of Ohio and Florida, and he also lost all 18 bellwether counties. Now, a bellwether state or bellwether county is a state or a county that picks the winner in presidential elections. And they don't just choose the winner every now and then. They have a consistent record of backing the winning horse in presidential elections. Some of these counties, some of these 18 counties, for example, have gone with the winning presidential candidate since 1976, 1960. One county has even gone with the winner. They've predicted the winner of presidential elections since 1952. Joe Biden lost all of them, and yet he is still being proclaimed the winner of the 2020 election. There is another curious incident. Again, I got this one from Mark Stein. Joe Biden, if he is inaugurated in January, will be the first president in U.S. history to win the presidency while his party lost every single House election in which it was competing with the GOP. There were 29 House elections this cycle where Democrats went up against Republicans. The Democrat candidates lost in all 29 elections, but Joe Biden is still, according to the media and to our oligarchy, won the election. Okay, that has never happened before in U.S. history. And again, that's not saying that that couldn't happen. That's not saying that all of these bellwether states and bellwether counties could be wrong, but that all of these things happen, boom, all at the same time. That's enough to raise suspicions, which is why when Sidney Powell says that there was voter fraud, that this was not on the up and up, I believe her. I believe her, gang. Okay? So when the New York Times and CNN says, there's nothing to it, these allegations have been completely debunked, that's enough for me right now to say, yeah, you're lying. Okay? There's more to this than simply a wave of the hand dismissal and everything is hunky-dory, okay? Why are you opposing Joe Biden? So, the big news, okay, that's who Sidney Powell is, and the Kraken was the the lawsuits that she was going to file, detailing how the election had been stolen from Donald Trump. And so the big news Wednesday night and Thanksgiving Day, all day Thanksgiving Day, was that, quote-unquote, the Kraken had been unleashed. And if you're wondering what the Kraken is, remember the big sea monster that Davy Jones calls up to eat Jack Sparrow? That's the Kraken. Release the Kraken didn't originate with the Pirates of the Caribbean movie. It actually originated in another movie called Clash of the Titans, which you might be familiar with from the 2010 remake with Liam Neeson. If you're only familiar with it from that version, I would highly recommend that you watch the original from, it's either 1981 or 1982. It's one of the last movies that Ray Harryhausen worked on, special effects maestro of the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Highly, highly, highly recommended adventure movie. So Sidney Powell said that the Kraken was going to be unleashed, and everyone on the right was wondering what it was going to be like. And then Wednesday night before midnight, she filed 2 lawsuits in Georgia and in Michigan. And everyone said, the Kraken has been unleashed. The Kraken has been unleashed. And everyone thinks that the mood on social media was that everything was now going to be fine because these 2 lawsuits in Georgia and in Florida have been filed. According to Business Insider, the Michigan suit has been lodged in federal court, but Business Insider, could not verify the status of the Georgia one. So we're not even sure if both lawsuits have been filed yet. We know that the one in Michigan has, but the Georgia one, it's still up in the air. Now, the last thing that I want to be is a Johnny Raincloud, a Debbie Downer, etc., etc., etc. But my fear with this euphoria on the right that the Kraken, quote-unquote, has been unleashed is that we are going to go for the low-hanging fruit again. In the first place, let me just say this, gang. In the first place, even though these lawsuits have been filed, that's no guarantee that anything is going to happen. Because in the first place, the judges could completely dismiss them, or they could rule against the Trump administration. The Kraken can't really be unleashed if the Kraken only swims about a couple of 100 yards and then is harpooned by Ned Land, stuffed, and put on his wall somewhere. So that's the first thing, okay? Even though they've been filed, that doesn't mean that anything anywhere has been unleashed. Because while the Kraken might have been unleashed, the judges, they are our new Olympians, as Justice Kennedy proved time and time and time again. And so the gods, they are higher up than the Kraken. And so just because a lawsuit was filed doesn't mean that we're out of the woods yet. In the second place, let's pretend that these lawsuits do go through the court system. Let's say that it goes all the way up to the Supreme Court. And let's say that the Supreme Court actually does rule in Trump's favor, and he actually is able to serve out a second term in the White House. Why do you think that the left, for the last couple of months, has been reiterating time and time again that Amy Coney Barrett is an illegitimate judge? Why do you think that for the last 2 years they've been saying that Brett Kavanaugh is an illegitimate judge? It's exactly for a situation like this. Because if this goes all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court rules in Trump's favor, then the left will be able to turn right around and say, well, it's only because there were 2 illegitimate justices on the Supreme Court who shouldn't have even been there in the first place. 3, if you want to count Neil Gorsuch, because they'll keep saying that Merrick Garland the last SCOTUS nominee made by President Obama, should have been put on the court. So 3 out of your 9 justices are illegitimate in the eyes of the left. That's a third of the court. So they're going to say, this ruling has absolutely no standing. This ruling has absolutely no weight in law. This is a perversion of justice. And then the left will be able to take it a step further. They'll be able to say, hey, we've told you, America, since 2016 that Donald Trump was just a fascist waiting to happen. And now look at this. He and his cronies on the Supreme Court have undermined a fair and legal election. They are ignoring the voice of the people. They are now illegitimately occupying both the Supreme Court and the White House. Donald Trump has cheated the people out of their champion and chosen candidate, Joe Biden, just so that he can remain in power. He is an illegitimate president. This, in turn, is going to justify anything and everything that Antifa and BLM does, because they're going to say, the narrative is going to be that, well, you can't simply protest anymore. Free speech doesn't get you anywhere. Protesting doesn't get you anywhere. The only thing that gets you anywhere is violent action against the fascist in the White House, the orange fascist in the White House. And there will be violence and fire and blood like we have not seen in this country for decades, spilled by people who still ostensibly are Americans. Perhaps we would say that they are only Americans by accidents of birth, because they sure as heck don't have American spirits. But that's another conversation in and of itself. In fact, you want to even know what else might happen in such a scenario. The left might say that since Trump is an illegitimate president, now squatting in the White House thanks to his cohorts in the Supreme Court, they might bring old China Joe Biden over to some place like Sacramento, and right alongside California state government, they might put up Joe Biden as America's true president. They might create an entire parallel government structure where Joe Biden and his handlers say that he's the real president. He's the real president. Trump is an imposter. Trump lost. Trump is now simply holding on to power through tricks and legal sedition, to use a word that the left seems to be more and more fond of as the days go by. You laugh. You laugh and say that that would never ever happen. Gang, I think that if 2020 has shown us one thing, it's that all the things that we thought last year would never ever happen not only can happen, but when the conditions are right, they can happen very, very easily. The point is that even if Sidney Powell's Kraken makes it to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court rules in Trump's favor, we won't have won. We will not have won, because the left will make the cold civil war that we have been in now since 2010 into a hot one. I have absolutely no doubt about it. That will be the straw that breaks their back. They will say that 77 million Americans, all the people who voted for Trump or support him, are traitors to American democracy. They, Trump, the Supreme Court, the GOP in general, they have all undermined American democracy and the will of the people, which voted in majority for Joe Biden. And therefore, the only thing that these people will understand is violence. You think that I am kidding, but the seeds are already being put into place. Here's a headline, actually, from Slate saying that the hashtag Stop the Steal people on Twitter and Instagram, etc., they are the new anarchists. They are the new seditionists, because they refuse to accept the results of the 2020 election. Amy Siskind, who is a leftist commentator on Twitter, commented that people who actually oppose the 2020 election should be charged with sedition and thrown in jail. She was saying that in regards to the Pennsylvania state GOP challenging the results of the 2020 election, even though we know of all the irregularities that were happening in Philadelphia. They are setting up the table for this, gang. In fact, I might even go so far as to say that what the left has done is, knowingly or not, it's created a Xanatos gambit, which is a bit of nerd terminology that comes from Disney's old afternoon cartoon Gargoyles. The main antagonist was a guy named David Xanatos, who was voiced by Jonathan Frakes, that's his name, Jonathan Frakes, who most people today know as Lieutenant Commander Riker from Star Trek Next Generation. And the Xanatos Gambit, in a nutshell, is when some person, buddy, institution, organization, they put their pieces on the board in such a way that no matter what happens, they always win. And that's kind of what the left has done in this case. I mean, on the surface, because if the result of the 2020 election are allowed to go forward, then their man, China Joe Biden, is put into the White House. And of course, they will have all of the levers of power once again. Okay? We can see what's going to happen just by some of the people that Biden has been tapping as to be part of his cabinet, part of his administration. If Biden is not put into the White House because election fraud is proven in court and the courts rule in Trump's favor, then the left will be able to say, well, Trump is just being the dictator that we always told you that he was. This is our justification for all the violence that we want in order to get what we want. That's just the way it is. Again, don't want to be a Johnny Raincloud, don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but that's just the hand that we've been dealt. But even if, okay, let me try to tone back the negativity here just for a second. And let's say that this goes all the way up to the Supreme Court. Sidney Powell's Kraken goes all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court rules in favor of Trump. And let's say that none of those things happen. Let's say that Antifa and BLM, they whine and moan, but they don't actually burn and loot in the streets. Let's say that the left gnash their teeth, but they don't really do anything. It's business as usual. Will we have won? Well, no. No, not really. Because what we will have simply proven is that we are now in a system where we can only win. Our guarantee of victory depends solely on the common sense, objectivity, worldview, and caprices of a handful of judges in a few courts scattered across the country. Now, I don't know about you, gang, but that is not the definition of a self-governing republic in my mind. If you are completely dependent, if you can only depend on your candidates getting into office because of a couple of judges, then not only do you not have a self-governing republic, but also your own hold of the minds and hearts of your countrymen, the country, the culture, and everything else is so weak and so ethereal almost that you don't even really have a hold on it at all. What this is all boiling down to, again, not to be negative, because Lord knows we need all the hope and positivity that we can get. The point of me saying all of this is to kind of splash cold water onto people and say that there is no simple fix to this, gang. There is no silver bullet. I have a bad feeling that a lot of people on the right, they want there just to be a silver bullet. Oh, if Sidney Powell just files this lawsuit in this federal court and that federal court, we're going to win. Oh, if it just is ruled in the right way and Trump is, sworn into office for a second term, we're going to win. If we can prove that voter fraud took place in 2020, we're going to win. No, gang. That might be a first step towards winning, but we will not win. We are in now for the long haul. We have years and years and years and years of work ahead to reclaim our birthright, which is our country and our history. And it's not going to be simply handed to us on a silver platter because some lawyer files a lawsuit in federal court in Michigan. A lawyer that the Trump administration itself has now claimed doesn't represent it at all. That's what I'm trying to say with this video. We are in for the long haul. We are in for the long haul. It's time to tighten our belts, gird our loins, buckle on our swords, and start marching. That is story number one.